South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everyone. Jeff Parles, Sports by the Book here on NFL Week 16. We're almost at the finish line here. Alex White is here as well. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning. Excited for Week 16 here in the NFL. Not the best of games, but we had a couple good ones yesterday.
That first game, first off, that injury to Tank Dell was brutal.
Oh, my God.
Absolutely brutal yesterday. Pretty good game between the Texans and the Chiefs. Chiefs have now covered 2 straight games now, actually.
Yes, they have.
And they covered all numbers yesterday, which I actually have to imagine was a pretty reasonable result for the folks in the back there that Kansas City covered. And then Russell Wilson, it really needs George Pickens back.
Yes.
Let's just go with that, because it looks like it's been the last 2 weeks for Pittsburgh, and Russell Wilson has looked like, I don't want to say Denver Russ, because that's super unfair, but it's the worst Russell Wilson has looked since putting on the black and yellow in Pittsburgh. So, but the Ravens get a win right now. Entering today's action in the AFC, the Ravens are still behind Pittsburgh. If Pittsburgh wins out, they will win the AFC North. But as you remember, all the teams that played yesterday play again on Christmas Day. Baltimore goes to Houston. Kansas City goes to Pittsburgh. So the teams who are home will go on the road for Christmas Day. All those Netflix games. You ready for that, Sean? You ready for that? Yeah, there we go. Let's see if Netflix actually doesn't buffer for hours on end like they did for the that horrible boxing match that took place about a month ago.
I did not have that on my bingo card. The Tyson boxing match would be brought up today.
Yeah, it's a nice, you can cash a nice ticket on that one, Alex. All right, let's get to it here today. Bengals hosting the Browns. Battle of Ohio. The last time these teams met, that was the game where Deshaun Watson ruptured his Achilles. And again, if you look at the Cincinnati defense, that is you're going to like this one. Now, there's only one of 2 games this year where Cincinnati has held an opponent under 17. Every other game this year, the opponent has at least, actually, forget 17, the opponent has at least, well, actually, I'm wrong, under 16, I should say, because New England was held to 16 week 1. But that game was barely a football game. But only 14 points for Cleveland that day. Watson, of course, remember, got hurt. They didn't score when Watson was in there. They scored when Jameis was in there. Dorian Thompson-Robinson is going to get the start. He was the first one who came in after the injury to Watson, and Thompson Robinson was not particularly good in that game. 11 to 24, 82 yards, 2 picks. I understand from Cleveland's perspective, get the young guy out there, see what you got, even though we kind of saw last year DTR ceilings probably as a backup quarterback in this league. But it's from 7.5 to 10 on this one. And then the one thing I'm a little perplexed on, this total's been banged down to 46. I understand Cleveland's got problems scoring with this quarterback situation, Alex. But we're still talking about the Bengal offense, which is ranked in the top 5 in basically every major category, and the Bengal defense, which is bottom 5 in almost every major category.
I'm with you. If I were to play this game, it would be the over, especially looking at the Bengals 31st in points allowed, as you brought up. And the Browns defense has really struggled, 26 in points allowed, giving up an average of 25 per game. Then we've seen this Bengals offense really come alive. The interesting thing to me is that Jameis Winston will not be the backup. It will be Bailey Zappi.
Sure.
So even if the Browns are struggling, so that could be why bettors are taking this more to the under, because when Winston comes in, you can get some points with them. But this is a tough one. I would have been all over the Bengals at that opening number of 7.5. But once it got to 9, I thought that was a little bit too much here.
I will tell you I didn't even realize the Zappy thing. That's recent with the injury reports coming out as well. But that is that is pretty funny. If DTR were to get benched or God forbid he got injured, you see Zappy, yikes. I'm not a proponent of laying bad numbers, Alex White. I'm just not. We're a field goal off from where this thing opened. Right. I have a very hard time seeing Cleveland covering any number in this game. I really have a hard time seeing it. And for Cincinnati, look, they need a lot of help in order to make the playoffs. They need to win out. Denver needs to lose out. Mm-hmm. And Indy and Miami both need to lose 1 game total. If they lose 1 game total between the two of them, Indy, by the way, has... We'll get to them later. The easiest schedule I can ever remember for the last 3 weeks. Tennessee, Giants, Jacksonville. They're going to be favored in all 3 games. The Dolphins, we'll get to them later, have flipped from a favorite to a dog today. Then they play Cleveland on the road and the Jets on the road. Not good teams, but cold weather with Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa. So the path is there for the Bengals. Again, they need a lot of help. Again, I don't like laying bad numbers, but I still think it's probably okay, even at this horrible number of 10 on the Bengals. But I understand why a lot of people would say, I'm getting 10. I'm taking it with Cleveland in this spot.
I do. I agree. I mean, even the games, and we'll get to a 14-point favorite later today, but the favorites that we have seen double digits this year have covered easily. Yep. So, I mean, it's just the bad teams are just really bad this year, and Cleveland Browns are one of those teams. So I am with you. I think the favorite is the correct side. The difference between the haves and the have-nots, that chasm has been wide for a while, but it's it's Grand Canyon size this year between the haves and the have-nots. Well, let's go to some more haves and have-nots, right? The Detroit Lions are 7-point favorites, back to 7, on the road at Chicago. Now, we saw this matchup on Thanksgiving. Mm-hmm. That was the end of the Matt Eberflus era and what was still the most astounding exhibition of, I don't even want to call it bad clock management because it wasn't clock management at all in that spot. Remember, Bears were in a giant hole at halftime of that game and came out of it and ended up losing by 3. The Bears in the first half, over the last 3 games, have scored a grand total, Alex White, and this is the Lions, the Vikings last weekend, and the Niners mixed in, have scored a grand total of 0 points in the first half the last 3 weeks. Now, it was better in the second half in all those games. Now, granted, the only one that was actually good was the Lion game. The 49er game, the Niners were totally in command in that game. The Niners outgained them 325-4 in the first half. And then last week the Bears were awful for most of that game except for when Minnesota really started taking the foot off the gas pedal. So, for me today, I like the first half Detroit, who they've been tremendous in the first half anyway in the Campbell era, covering nearly 70% of those first halves.
Now we're up to 4 across the board here from 3.5. I still think you're okay to lay that in the first half. Now, the question I have for you, Alex, is with all these injuries on the Detroit Lions defense, can we get anything out of Chicago in the first half to get over 24 first half? Or will we just look at that first half and say, all right, Detroit's going to be able, even in cold weather, even though 25 degrees with limited wind in Chicago on the Sunday before Christmas is pretty darn good for outside in December. But I would still lean the favorite play in this game, lay the floor in the first quarter, or first half, I should say, with the Detroit Lions against the Bears.
Jeff, I'm with you. I laid the 3.5 with the Lions in the first half. I think that is the better bet. I was looking if we could go over in the first half as well, but seeing that with the Bears scoring 0 in 3 or 6 quarters, the last 3 games, is pretty alarming. And then looking at that first matchup, I mean, it was Eberflus that really made the adjustments and got the Bears to come back. So I don't really have a lot of faith in them. And we saw the Lions with a 16-0 lead on Thanksgiving. So offensively, I'm not worried about this team, even though they are without Montgomery for the rest of the season. I think that they have plenty of weapons. So I think that's the best bet in this game as well.
I really want to kind of want to take this game over as well. Now, again, we're getting Detroit in just their second outdoor game of the year. They will play their third and final outdoor game of the year next week on Monday night against the 49ers. The lone outdoor game this year, remember, was in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. It was an inclement weather game. Lions won 24-14. Goff didn't have to do anything. Mm-hmm. Lions actually got outgained. They got out yard per play in that game. It was just that Jordan Love pick 6 at the end of the half that completely flipped that game on its head in favor of the current 1 seed, the Detroit Lions. Again, we know Goff much better inside. We've known that for a while. But again, this weather, it's actually even warmer than I thought it was going to be. 32 degrees a kick. Take that 100 times out of 100 in Chicago on the final next to final Sunday of the calendar year. The
only concern is really what are you expecting from the Lions? And would you rather just go over their team total?
Could do that too.
Because since Eberflus is firing, I mean, the Bears have scored 13 and 12 in each of the last 2 games. So I'm concerned with how much you're going to get from them. But I mean, if you can get, 34 from the Lions?
Oh, I mean, 30. If you get 34 from Detroit and you can't get over 47.5, that's pretty bad against that Detroit defense. So
maybe looking at their team total.
All right, let's go to Charlotte next. Wow, my screen just did zoom in times 1,000 there, Alex. The Cardinals on the road. Look at this. Look at this. Everyone betting Arizona today from 4 to 5.5 on this one. Carolina last week, the cover streak ended a week ago. It was, it was time. And as Vinny said so artfully and properly on the Friday show last week, it didn't look right that Carolina was a field goal favorite against against the Cowboys. And you know what? He was right. It ended up not being right as Carolina got soundly beaten last week, 30-14. It was the worst game Young has played since coming back as the starter. It was a different role too, Alex, where you saw Carolina as a favorite. It's a different role. And now, granted, it's not like for the NFL teams, we're favored in this game. You're supposed to win every game when you're an NFL team.
Right.
Or at least you go into it. Now they're back in a more familiar role as an underdog at home. Arizona looked good enough, was more than good enough to beat New England and cover a week ago in the desert. If we get 6 by game time, I'm taking Carolina. Other than that, I don't have much to say in this game, other than the fact that, again, you got another warm weather indoor team going to, again, you don't think of Charlotte as cold, but it is chilly today. This game will be played in the high 30s, the low 40s with the weather. And again, the wind is non-factor. So that is at least a good sign for everyone involved in this game.
I jumped in early this week. I did lay the 4.5 here with Arizona. I just think the regression to the mean with Young was coming, and I expect to see it again here today. The Cardinals, you bring up a good point with the cold, but they are such a good balanced offense. They run the ball very well, and Carolina's the worst team against the run. So I expect a big game from James Conner as well. But now, if you don't like that number, maybe tie the Cardinals up money line. But if there's a 6, I could see that side too, taking it with the Panthers. But I like Cardinals to win this game, and at that 4.5, I was all over it there.
Panthers, again, and still in the race for the number one overall pick. Cardinals, if you're looking at just, all right, what's their path here? They need a boatload of help, mostly because of getting swept by Seattle. They would need to beat Seattle by one game the rest of the way. And they have to beat the Rams next week in L.A. So realistically speaking, Cardinals got to win out and get some help. Again, Seahawks are going to be a dog. They already are one today. They will be a dog the final week of the season against the Rams as well. So the path is not impossible for Arizona, but it is still long odds, especially with the Rams a favorite on the road today. We'll get to them a little bit later. All right, let's go to Buffalo next. Now, this is in the 125 Pacific window. They moved this game back, but again, rotation numbers out early, so that's why this game's going right now. 2 touchdowns with the Bills at home. This number it's been static the whole week. Hasn't moved here at the South Point. 14 the whole week. 46.5 from 46. Ian Rappaport reported today that Josh Allen had been playing with a broken bone in his non-throwing hand all season, which kind of knew something was up earlier in the year, but boy, pretty wild. Again, doesn't need it to throw, but still crazy that he's been playing with a broken bone in his left hand all year. The Bills, obviously the AFC East has been wrapped up now for a month, basically, with the Bills winning out, coupled with 2 Kansas City losses. They will get the 1 seed, but again, Kansas City's win yesterday really makes it an uphill climb for Buffalo in order to get the 1 seed. If the Bills lose somehow is a 14-point favorite, you'd be getting a nice 8-1 on New England, Alex. The Chiefs would clinch the number 1 seed, but again, it's a 2-touchdown favorite at home against, again, they haven't played New England yet this year. This is their first matchup between these 2 teams. They play this weekend and they play week 18 because NFL scheduling is hard sometimes.
I am pretty shocked that even the Sharps aren't taking that 14 because usually it's just to take on the number here. But that's exactly what I made the game. I made it a little bit higher at 48. So I decided to look at the first half. I went over 23.5 for these 2. Both teams allowing 12 points on average in the first half and the Bills averaging 15, third best in the league. So we've really seen their offense come alive, very well balanced offense with their run and pass game. And Josh Allen having an MVP season. So I think we can get there combined over 23.5. I don't know what the current number is right now. I would have to check that one. But, I mean, if it moved up to 14, do you see what it is?
Blanking.
It is 24 here.
Yeah,
I said 14. 24 here, but there's a couple 23.5s out there still.
Yeah, my screen froze on me, Alex, as I was trying to get to that. I'll say on the New England end of things, again, this has been a lost season, but the future for New England, if with a good offseason or 2 moving forward, because of what we've seen from Drake May, I've been super impressed with what the rookie quarterback has done with no offensive line, basically no talent around him. He has looked the part. Now, there have been rookie moments because, of course, there's going to be, especially when being on one of the worst teams in the league. But he has played really well. Now, this is a different animal. You're going into Buffalo in December with that raucous crowd, that defense, which, again, I do have some questions about Buffalo's defense moving forward. They've been awful the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Hasn't mattered because last week Allen was basically perfect against the Lions. The week before he was perfect, and it somehow still wasn't enough against the Rams. But I think you can look at some Drake May props today. I think he'll have at least a reasonable numbers game today. Again, 14, it would be a lean to the dog. I don't think it's a strong play by any means. It will be in my account, especially if that hook comes on, Alex. But I'd be looking to attack Drake May. I'm not convinced of this Buffalo defense.
Yeah.
And especially with the weather today in Orchard Park, it's just cold. I mean, and no wind. I mean, it's just cold. It's 12 degrees a kick, but that's really all it is, more so than anything. It's just cold more than wind.
Are you thinking passing yards? Because there was a little bit of contradicting comments from Jared Mayo and then the OC and Alex Van Pelt about whether or not they want Drake May to still be running as much this late in the season, just protecting the quarterback. So OC was saying more that is not what they want to protect him, right? And they don't want him to use his legs. But Jared Mayo wants him to be aggressive. So a little bit of just some controversy there. Look that up before jumping in on rushing yards for him, which we normally would because he has been very mobile and has covered those.
What do we have here for May? 204.5 on passing yards. Not bad. Not bad. DK's offering a minus 290 over a half a touchdown pass. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Take 31.5 yards with passing yards with Drake May against Josh Allen. That's probably not enough. I think I need about 41.5. Again, New England's defense is not good either. But it'll be interesting to see. You mentioned that rushing thing real quick on May. May's rushing total is 26.5. So 27. Again, May is averaging about 37 yards a game on the ground. I do not have the median. Sorry on that. All right, let's go to Philadelphia and Washington. This is the best game of the day, at least on paper. These two teams played in Philadelphia on a Thursday night about a month ago. Remember, Commanders were leading going into the fourth quarter of that game, and then the Eagles really put it on them in that fourth quarter to win and cover all numbers in South Philly that day. 26-18 was the final of that one. That was, of course, remember, Saquon Barkley just took that game over in the fourth quarter after just wearing down that Commander defense all the way through. Up to 4 now. It was 3.5 most of the week. This is a double toggler, by the way, here at the South Point. 3.5, 4, 3.5, 3, 3.5, 4, where it's sat now for about an hour here on this Sunday. Alex, I'm curious your thoughts because the Commanders are in control of their own destiny. They go 2-1 the rest of the way. They're going to go to the postseason. If they go 3-0, they're definitely going. But look, you got Philadelphia, you got Atlanta, who is technically still alive, right behind them coming to town next week. A big spot here for a young team that has seen some regression after their incredible start to the season.
Jeff, I wanted to play Commanders first half, and now I'm just looking right now. It looks like the South Point has the best number. I don't think we'll get there, but Commanders +3 in the first half. I mean, if you look at these two teams, Washington's second in first half points. They're also first in first half points allowed at 7.3. So they start off really, really strong. And you just said that about the first meeting between these two. Philly on the other side starts a little bit slow. So, I mean, instead of going full game and you're getting a field goal there, I think that might be the best bet. And I was looking throughout the week and just saw those 2.5s. Didn't think that was enough. But if you can grab that 3 in the first half.
3's pretty good.
Yeah.
3's pretty good. I'm going to stay out. I'm going to see if Washington gets ahead, and then I'm going to come in on Philadelphia. I just don't see the Eagles blowing this game. Now, we've talked about the Eagles. The Eagles have done as good of a job as anyone in the NFL playing up to their competition, and then on the flip side, playing down to their competition. Eagles end with 3 divisional games. They play the Cowboys next week and then play the Giants the final week of the season at home before hosting a round 1 and probably a round 2 game as the likely 2 seed in the NFC. But just look at the way the Eagles have played up and down this year. Last week was another perfect example. They were clearly the better side the whole game in that game against Pittsburgh, and they ended up covering and winning by 14. The week before that, if Xavier Legette makes a play in the end zone, Philadelphia's got to drive the field in order to kick a field goal to win that game against Carolina. They have been great against the high-end teams this year. Remember, their 2 losses are pre-bye week, that ridiculous one against Atlanta, which in retrospect looks even more absurd with how Cousins' season has collapsed this year, and the Bucs when they didn't have either of the top wide receivers, and 4 guys on their defense were hurt in that game. So they've been the best team in the NFL since week 4. So I'd only lean to Philadelphia. I don't want to bet the worst of the number in this one, but this could be one of those Washington covers first half, get better number on Philadelphia at halftime, and then go from there, Alex.
They have been really good, and especially their defense has just improved so much. So looking at the Commanders being a playoff team, are you considering them a high-end team? Is what you're saying. We'll see the best of the Eagles?
You would think. You would think with the way they played up this year again. I don't know what to make of this Commander team right now. They're probably the right 7 seed, especially if you look at the rest of the conference at this point. If it's between them and Atlanta, I don't even have to hesitate at this point.
No.
Of who the better team is. It's just a matter of those teams out west, who I think Seattle, even with their issues on the offensive line, and the Rams are clearly better than them at the moment. Seahawks have had problems line-wise all year, but we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Again, I think I like your play. Take the first half and then come back with the better number on Philadelphia in the second half. All right, let's go to the Michael Penix Bowl. Our guy Sean here today walked in. Alex walked in, and the second thing after good morning that Sean said, I don't even know if he said good morning to you, actually, is that Michael Penix is going to go for over 300 yards in this game, which I think both of our eyes, the four eyes between the two of us, almost popped onto the desk when we heard Sean say that. For Michael Penix, who of course is making his NFL debut, Cousins benched. Big thing, obviously, this week there in Atlanta. Michael Penix, of course, apparently finding out while getting a Costco hot dog, Alex. So very nice there from Penix. If Sean wants to bet that, by the way, you can get 7-1 almost on Penix to throw for 300 yards in this game. The bettors not as convinced on this, Alex. This opened 10, got as low as 8.5. Now it's 9 in this game, with the Falcons favored against the worst team in the NFL, starting Drew Lock in the random quarterback generator deal here today.
Well, the bettors do trust Michael Penix a little bit because the total has gone up, and now it's sitting at 43, and that is where I jumped in on the under between these two because I expect an upgrade, but I also expect them to really rely on their run game. The Giants are not good against the run, while they have been better against the pass, so I think we're going to see a big game from Bijan Robinson, and they're going to kind of start slow getting Michael Penix in there. Falcons are 8-1 to the under against any team outside of their division. And then just looking at this Giants team, they've lost 9 in a row. Their median numbers in those games was 14 points for. So I think it's going to be a slow moving, kind of a boring game between these two.
You can say it. It's okay. You can say it.
I'm going under here at 43.
I really want to take the Giants. I really want to do it, but as are the rules with betting Falcon games. Whatever side you bet, you're going to lose at this point. That's at least the rule on this desk.
The last 2 years.
The last 2 years. I don't know. I mean, you got a rookie making his debut in the middle of a playoff race in Week 16. It usually doesn't go well when you get a weirdo scenario like that. But Cousins has been so awful the last 5 weeks. Like, at the point of, do you even, you watch these last 5 weeks for someone who's, again, Cousins is going to get cut before the league year happens next year. He's going to be it's going to be like Russell Wilson last year. He's going to be available for the league minimum for whichever team signs him. What team can think he's got anything left in the tank at this point? Unless if it's like, all right, we're chalking this up that the Achilles didn't heal. Maybe it'll heal again. But
yeah,
dude's almost 40. You just can't assume he's going to come back. For this game today, it would only be a take of the Giants, but boy, that is gross. And that team, I mean, talk about perfecting the tank, Alex. Talk about perfecting it, where the Raiders have a very winnable game today, which we'll get to later. But you keep throwing out a different quarterback every week.
Yep.
You keep looking, except for a really just a chunk of the New Orleans game, really just have looked beyond embarrassing since the game in Germany, since they benched Jones, where, I mean, that Tampa game was an affront to football. The Cowboy game, they got in a giant hole and somehow actually almost covered that game.
Yeah, competitive in the second half.
Yeah, well, Dallas was up 21 before the Giants started playing. That Saint game was dreadful, obviously. And then last week, you're the biggest underdog of the NFL season, and you don't cover as a 17-point underdog at home. So, I don't know. It's gross. But it would only be a take of the Giants here. And I would not recommend what Sean has on the 300-yard passing. I think there's better ways to bet plus 650, 7-1 on that for Penix. But if he does, Sean, you better have a ticket with not linked up in some nonsense parlay that's going to lose. That's all I'm going to say. Better be on its own so you at least get some money in the account. All right. Let's take a 2-minute break. We get back. More games. Vinny Magliulo will join us in about 10 minutes as well. When we get back, Sports by the Book here on a Sunday morning.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu. Plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book here on a Sunday morning. Jeff Parles, Alex White, thrilled to be with you as always. We're convincing ourselves of betting the Giants in the first quarter during the break, which might be time to just move on to a different game if that's the conversation that's going on.
Well, the next game coming up, I'm
yeah.
very curious to hear what you have to say about this one. Where you're going with this?
I wonder if anyone can be curious about this game that's coming up. Period, Alex, because it's an AFC South battle. The Colts are still alive in this thing. Now, last week, again, the Jonathan Taylor, Deshaun Jackson play really flipped that game on its head. It was going to be a 2-score Indy lead if he just holds onto the ball for an extra foot.
Yep.
And instead, fumble. Broncos get it. They outscore them 24-0 the rest of the way, and the Colts now need a bunch of help in order to get into the postseason. Now, we mentioned this earlier. Indy's schedule is a joke. They played the Titans today. They go to the Meadowlands and take on the Giants next week, and then they host Jacksonville. And thankfully for Indy, it's not a trip to Jacksonville because they can't win there. They get Jacksonville at the Luke. So Indy is the most alive of the 6 and 8 teams in the AFC because if they win out in Denver and Denver ends up at 8 and 9, Indy goes, regardless of what happens with Miami and Cincinnati. Now, granted, Denver has to lose out, and Indy has to win out, which might be a heck of a parlay at this point with the Colts, but that's where we're at. Mason Rudolph starts for Tennessee, which I think for a lot of people is a thank goodness sigh of relief that we don't have to watch Levis anymore, unless if you just keep betting these Titan games over and then Levis gives you 14 points the other way like he did last week. It's 4, Alex. It's 42.5 there in Indianapolis. There's been a double toggler as well, 4.5 to 4 to 3.5 to 4 in this game.
I didn't do anything in this game. I mean, I don't want to lay points here with the Colts, even though, like you said, they just need to win out here. But the Titans, I mean, I actually think Mason Rudolph helps them. If anything, I would be taking the points here with them. I'm still convinced that their defense is better than what we have seen, and I think that they'll play this division opponent pretty tight here. So it would be a take on the points here with Mason Rudolph, especially we did see him. I mean, he threw a pick against the Bengals, but 209 yards, completed 81% of his passes. So it is an upgrade, I think, from Will Levis to Mason Rudolph, and I still don't trust Anthony Richardson completely. So I didn't do anything, but it would be a take of the points.
I'll just throw this out there real quick in this game, where the Titans with Rudolph have been considerably better. Now, they still have been a bad team for almost all of the season, if not all of it. The question here with Tennessee is just how much getting Levis out of there, and this is going to sound a little backwards, but follow with me here for a second. For that defense that I still think can play, they still have enough talent on that defense. How much do you think getting Levis out of there helps them a little bit? Because the last 2 weeks, they gave up 10 points against Jacksonville and lost because Levis was that inept against them. He wasn't even a turnover. It was just ineptness in that game. And then last week, it ended up being 37, but they turned Burrow over twice. The Titans turned the ball over 6 times last week. I mean, they turned... The Titans turned the Bengals over 4 times. Well, technically 3, because one of them was the idiocy with the guy in the, I think it was Geno Stone, who returned the fumble, tried switching the ball to the other hand, and then kicked the ball through the end zone for the touchback. But you forced 3 turnovers against one of the best offenses in the NFL. You're supposed to be competitive in that game, and the Titans weren't. So I just wonder if Tennessee's defense actually gets a bizarro boost from the fact that Levis is not playing anymore, and will likely be cleaner football from Mason Rudolph. With that said, I'd only lay it with Indianapolis here at home. I don't love laying more than a field goal with this team. That really just felt like gut punch season-ending fiasco last week against Denver, but it's the right team that they drew here. So I like Indy laying the 4. Not overly confident, but I do have the play on the Colts in this one. All right, let's go to the Rams and the Jets. So this has been a classic 3.5 toggler all week here at the South Point. Rams 3 right now, was 3.5 earlier in the week. There's some 3 even now at the Westgate, and I think I'm going to take that with the Rams, lay the 3 on the road. It is going to be very cold in the Meadowlands today, but the Jets are without their best defensive player today in Quinnen Williams. And this is a defense that struggles to stop the run to begin with. Now you take out the one guy who's worth anything in that defensive middle for the defensive line. Yeah, I know Quincy Williams, his brother's still good, but you take Quinnen Williams out of that equation. We've seen this in the past with the Jets. Their defense, when they were good, when Quinnen was out for a few games 2 years ago, their defense just collapsed. Now you're facing Kyren Williams and a Ram offense that can beat you in all sorts of ways, and then on top of beating you in all sorts of ways, they're playing great on offense right now. Yeah, I know they scored 12 points last week. I'm throwing that out. I like the Rams. I get why people bet the Jets, especially at the 3.5, but I'll lay 3, especially 3 even now that I'm not even having the lay juice on the 3 with the Rams in this game.
Do we think the Rams are 4.5 to 6 points better than the Jets?
Yes.
Power rating wise?
I think they are. But again, the Jets are, and for me, I have the Jets lower than I think everyone else does at this point, because coaching-wise, they're as poorly coached of a team as you're ever going to see. Rodgers has played better the last month, but the defense still stinks. Right. And now they're without their best players. So I get where you're coming from, and you're not alone in that thinking. But I think the Rams are on a neutral. Keep in mind, I think it's got to be 1.5 for Jet home field. So really 4.5 on a neutral.
Okay.
I think they're 4.5 points better.
Because I didn't make it quite this high, but I have not jumped in yet on taking the points with the Jets. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if they are going to keep trying and not be in tank mode, even though they are eliminated. But they've averaged 26.5 points in their last 4 games, so they are playing better, and Rodgers is playing better, and their offense is much better. But you bring up a great point about their defense, and I was looking at Kyren Williams anytime touchdowns, tying that up with somebody else and over his rushing yards. So I think that would be a great play, and that's the way I would play this, is looking more at the prop side.
Kyren Williams is the guy to attack today.
He is.
I mean, you just got to do it. The Jets, who, again, have been brutal against the run all year, now colder weather. Again, you do have a West Coast team that plays basically in a glorified dome, which is what SoFi is, even though you saw the Haiti on Thursday night with the Charger game. All the all the gloom from the ocean basically like leaking through, and it looked almost foggy inside by the end of the game. Kyron Williams, here's what I'll tell you. You want Kyron? I wish I was getting a better price on this. Kyron Williams to reach 100 yards is only plus 140, but I still think that's probably good here today.
Yeah.
I expect him to have a big-time game. One other thing I will tell you, the Jets, I don't know what they're doing with Breece Hall. I don't know why he's playing still. He's not 100%. The season is over. I would look to get the problem is the backup situation all depends on injury-related things here today for the Jets. But I would look for either Isaiah Davis props or anyone else behind Hall, but they're not readily available at all right now anywhere else because of that injury situation behind Breeze.
Is that Braylon Allen?
Usually it is, but no. Allen was on the injury report all week. Allen,
I thought I did see something that he was.
Allen is playing.
Okay, I thought.
But again, it's none of those numbers are up because of that injury report the whole week with Allen, and then Isaiah Davis, who has actually played pretty well the last 3 weeks for the Jets. Been active in that offense. All right, let's go to Seattle next. Seahawks, 2.5-point underdogs at home against the Vikings. Alex, I'm done going against Minnesota, at least until further notice. At 3.5, it would have been an absolute play on the Seahawks here, which is what it opened at. There was question on if Geno Smith was going to be able to go. Thankfully for Seattle, he is able to go because what we saw from Sam Howell last week was bad. And I don't think Sam Howell is an NFL quarterback by any stretch. And he would have been in big trouble against this Minnesota vaunted blitzball defense that they have. What do you do now at 2.5, though, Alex? Now it's tough because now we've gone through 3. Would you dare, like, if you had Seattle 3.5, would you dare take Minnesota laying to 2.5 and try to middle this thing right on 3 with how well Minnesota has played? And again, they're tied with the Lions right now.
Yeah.
Quietly so, tied for the best record in the NFL right now. NFC, I should say. Sorry.
I like the Seahawks. I jumped in at 3. I did not get the hook there, but I am on the dog in this one, and I'm almost tempted to take a little on the money line. I think Seattle can win this game, and they're coming off a terrible performance, and we do need Geno Smith healthy in this one. But I mean, a 30-13 loss to Green Bay at home. Now they get back-to-back home games. Kind of a weird traveling spot for the Vikings. And we get Kenneth Walker back. So I think that they'll lean on their run game, especially with Geno a little banged up, try and protect their quarterback there. So yeah, I'm on the Seahawks. Might jump in a little bit of money line here.
I don't have a problem with that. I really don't. Again, this is for Seattle. Look, Minnesota's in the playoffs.
Yep.
If Minnesota wins out, they actually get the 1 seed. As wild as that is, would be 15-2. Kevin O'Connell, just hand Kevin O'Connell the trophy before the season even ends of Coach of the Year. Seattle needs to win out, realistically speaking, at this point, if they want to be in the playoffs for certain. They win out, they win the division. They will get there. They will win the division at 11-6 if they win out. Now, they have to go to L.A. the last week of the season. This is no gimme. Obviously, they're an underdog at home. They play at Chicago in a short week the day after Christmas. Should be able to win that game, even with how bad the Bears have been. But a very difficult game here for the Seahawks on the road, or at home with the Vikings on the road in this one. Even though you can argue, the Vikings do love being at sea here, though, Alex. So that is, and they at least have them going for them in this one. All right, let's go to Miami next. The Disappointment Bowl. The Disappointment Bowl between the Dolphins and the Niners. I think there's a legitimate argument to be made if we're just looking more macro, more so than anything, that both of these teams may have missed their windows of being legitimate potential championship teams. Niners kind of feels like they had to get it done last year. Now they're going to have to pay everyone, even though Deebo Samuel's had as bad of a walk year as you could have lined up for him this year. Miami, Tyreek Hill has 1 touchdown over 35 yards this year. It was in week 1. He's not the same guy anymore, even though Tua has played pretty well since coming back from the concussion. It just, in Miami, we know what they are. They don't beat good teams. They beat up on bad teams. It's what they are. This has been a fun one. From Miami 2.5 to San Francisco 2, which makes this completely unbettable right now at this current number. I thought the Niners as a dog were good in this. I know Miami at home.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest of travel, long travel for San Francisco, but I just think they're the better football team still, even with all their issues. Now at this number, no thank you. No thank you at all on this, Alex.
I lean to the Dolphins here at home, and they are still playing for something. I mean, San Francisco isn't technically eliminated, but their year is over. There's still no Trent Williams in this game, which makes it a lot harder for Brock Purdy and their offense to get going. And I know their numbers are still relatively good. I mean, they are still second in passing yards, holding opponents to just 181, and their defense has been good. They're 17th in points allowed at 22.9, but I think that the Dolphins will show up in this one, and we know how much better they are at home than away. So I think their offense will be okay. So I didn't do anything, but now getting points here with the home team, I'm tempted. That would be the way I'd bet it.
If you have either side as a dog in this game, I can't really fault you. Again, I thought pick was the right number, which is where we were most of the week on this game with the Niners and the Dolphins. All right, you know what? I want to hit this last one, and then we'll bring Vinny in because I said this to you during the break. I am unbelievably excited for this trash heap that we're getting just down the road from us here today. And that's the Raiders hosting the Jaguars. Aiden O'Connell's going to go based off of all the reports that are out there. And for the Raiders draft pick scenario, that is the worst thing that could possibly happen here today for them because, look, I at this point, I think we kind of know what Aiden O'Connell is. He's a borderline back-end starter, but is a very reasonable backup.
Yep.
And today, it's him against Mac Jones, unless if O'Connell surprisingly gets ruled out when we get closer to the game. If it's Mac Jones against Desmond Ridder, hold on to your hats. That's as bad as you can get, basically.
Yes.
But I agree with the move here, even with how pathetic the Raiders have looked. I agree that they should be a 2.5-point favorite in this game now. And I would only lean to the Raiders here. I would also put Jacksonville in the teaser at 8.5 as well, because I don't think either of these teams are capable of winning this game by more than a touchdown here, Alex. I think that's probably your best angle. Put Jacksonville in the teaser in this game.
Yeah, I do. I think that's a great angle. Especially, I was very excited to bet the Jags when I thought it was Desmond Ridder, but then when I found out the Aiden O'Connell news, stayed off of this game immediately. I do think that he gives them the best shot of winning. They also have Jacoby Myers healthier, Brock Bowers. So I'm staying away from this one, but I like the teaser getting that up to 8.5.
It is a horrible game, but for draft position, this is the game today. Right now, the Raiders hold the first overall pick on a 10-game losing streak right now. If the Raiders push that to 13, it's going to come down to, between assuming them and the Giants both lose out, it's going to come down to who has the weaker strength of schedule, which right now is separated. The Raiders at 5-4-1, the Giants at 5-5-0. As close as you can basically get down the stretch for both of these teams. Giants have the advantage, by the way, on the strength of schedule today because the Falcons obviously better than the Jags. But if the Raiders lose this game, the Raiders could fall all the way down to pick number 7 if the Raiders win today.
Ooh.
So huge draft implications. Wow. And by the way, if the Jaguars lose, the Jaguars aren't dead for the number 1 pick either if the Giants were to lose. So there's again, not football, other than normal traditional handicapping, there was a lot on the line. And again, you can't really go into it and be like, oh, these teams are openly trying to tank. No, we can't do that. It's the NFL. People are fighting for jobs next year. Antonio Pierce probably, I don't think Pierce is returning, but who knows if the Raiders are competitive these last few weeks, maybe Mark Davis will give them a second year. I think that'd be a mistake, but that's a different conversation for a different time. All right, we'll bring him in. Vincenz, Vinny Magliulo is here. Vinny, we've done all but one game here today. We'll get to the Sunday night game in a little bit. But Vinny, I just want to ask you one thing that doesn't have to do with these games, because I saw this morning. The Saints and the Packers, who we will break down a ton tomorrow. Alex and Kenny will be here at 9 a.m. Ryan and I will be here at 3 to break down Monday Night Football.
Yes.
Did you see how the Saints are preparing their quarterbacks for very cold weather at Lambeau Field tomorrow night?
Well, tell me. Enlighten me.
The quarterbacks,
what,
led by Spencer Rattler.
Walk-in box?
Oh, you nailed it. You nailed it. all quarterback meetings this week were done in the walk-in freezer in the facility in New Orleans this week.
Why not? Well, I can tell you this. Between that and you know who's going to have the number one pick overall? All right, bookmakers.
Oh,
I mean, I'm sure you just talked about favorites and over, right? I mean, why not?
I didn't. We didn't bring up any of the college football playoff, which, as Vinny just mentioned.
Well, they're NFL playoff games. I mean, the way they're betting and the way they're. I mean, yesterday, right? 5 games, right? And when you include the 2 pro games. Favorites and over, and just walk up to the window.
Was the only dog that covered yesterday North Dakota State of the 7 games that were out there?
Of the
right?
7 games,
North
Dakota
State.
And they won the game outright.
Yeah, they were the only underdog.
Of course, that wasn't bet like.
I know, but that was the only underdog, and was that the only under too yesterday too? Did Montana State go over?
It just feels like it.
I'm going to imagine it did with how yesterday went.
But the first game was under.
This was the first game,
yeah. Chiefs over, Baltimore over, Penn State under. Sorry, Alex is right.
Yeah, that's the only one there.
Over on Texas, over on Ohio State, under on Montana State and South Dakota. Vinny.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Yes.
Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah.
Well, I take a.
You can take a sip.
I thought for sure that was the first question you were asking. I didn't know you were going with the Saints quarterback, so I thought we were diving. I thought you were going.
Look, Vinny's going to be mad at me anyway because there are.
I know what you mentioned.
There are 4 games at least 4 games on the board that are heading for potential middles for the folks behind the counter here today. But Vinny, we going back to what you said Thursday. Fuse started with the Thursday night game.
I told you.
And then actually, geez. The Thursday, the 4 playoff games, the 2 games yesterday. The favorites are hearty 7-0.
Yes,
to begin the week right now.
And by the way, it's interesting. So next week, you think about it. 2 teams that were on a bye yesterday, in the college playoffs.
Yeah,
they're double-digit dogs.
Yeah.
Well, only one team with a bye a favorite right now? Because Ohio State's favored against Oregon.
Well, Ohio State is 1.5 against Oregon, but Arizona State was off yesterday, right? Yeah, 14. They're getting 14. Boise was off. They're getting 10. So, look, but those are the numbers. Those are the matchups. That's the format. Off we go. As far as today, a lot of movement. The Bengals. Let me run these down as we speak. Bengals up 3 points to 10.
Ooh.
7. We opened them last Sunday night. 46 on the total. So interesting. The totals come down. Typically, especially with double digits, you would think the total would go up. But totals down from 49.5 to 46. We all know about the injury situation with the Lions. That game has gone back to 7. So that game opened 7, went to 6.5. Pretty good opinions taking the number. Again, numbers. It's about betting numbers. That game is back up to 7, 47.5 on the total. I know this will shock everybody that House needs the Panthers. They're up to 5.5, possibly on the verge of 6, 47. This game flexed out, right? Patriots, Bills, but it's in the rotation order. This game, 14. Yes, 14. The Bills are favored in this one. They get the Patriots in 2 weeks again, too. An interesting scheduling situation, as we've talked about during the course of the year. 46.5 on that total. Not a lot of movement there. Not a huge decision. Both sides in teasers there, too. Eagles, Commanders. We need the Commanders. They came in on the Eagles here, back to 4. It had it toggled between 3.5 and 3 all week, but now pretty significant play on the Eagles. Giants and Falcons. This game opened 10, got as low as 8.5, but it's been all about the Falcons in the last 24 hours. 9.43 on the total, so not a whole lot of movement there. Not a lot of movement here on this game, although it's kind of there is two-way action. Thank you, Ann. We got one game with two-way action.
One game.
The Colts 4 and 42.5. Rams Jets don't need a 3 here. They're taking 3.5 with the Jets and laying a 3 with the Rams right now. 3 and 47. No movement on the total. Vikings, Seahawks. This game opened 3.5. It's a little deceiving. Opened 3.5 with the Vikings favorite, obviously. Now down to 2.5. Looks like we would need the Vikings, but obviously lots of money line parlays and teasers with the Vikings in this one. Niners and Dolphins. You talked about it as I was coming in. All about the Niners here. This game opened with the Dolphins as 2.5-point favorites last Sunday. Injuries, we know about the Hill situation and et cetera for the Dolphins. The Niners, 2 right now. So it's a pretty big decision. Jaguars, Raiders, you said the same thing here, on the verge of 3. They laid the Raiders all the way up to 2.5. Bucks, Cowboys, again, another game that just we talked about it last week when the Cowboys were a dog against the Carolina Panthers, and here they are at home against a pretty hot team, getting 4 against the Buccaneers, and not a lot of movement on that game yet, but there'll be plenty of carryover to it. And then tomorrow night, the Packers, 14 against the Saints in the freezer box. There's your rundown.
Real quick on that Sunday night game for us, Alex, as Vinny said, it doesn't look as weird as last week because at least Tampa's good.
Yeah.
At least this Buck team is well on their way to
veteran team.
Well on their way to winning the NFC South at this rate. Yeah, Atlanta could still technically catch them.
They could, and they have the tiebreaker.
But the Bucks, look, the Bucks went out. They're good, and I don't trust Atlanta to win out. It feels like they'll slip up one of these last 3. It's 4. Alex, there's a bunch of 3.5 in the market right now, which has me thinking if we somehow see 3, don't blink for 1.
Don't.
If we somehow see 3, I'd lay it with Tampa. I actually don't mind 3.5, actually, now that we're below 4. I just think they're much better than the Cowboys are.
I do too. I made this game 5, so yeah, if we saw a 3, I'm kind of waiting and see where this number moves. I am a little worried though, and I hate when people say this about doesn't this feel like something, but I'm a little nervous about Tampa in this spot after those 4 pretty impressive wins that they have rattled off. And now I could see them just slipping up here and in the big moment in the Sunday night game. But I think I like the favorite in this one.
It is, again, a huge game for Tampa. Dallas, by the way, still technically alive as we outlined on the show on Thursday. And then Dwayne Colucci got a... Kaluch was like, what the hell? Only a partridge in a pear tree is needed on top of it. Cowboys with a 0.1% chance of making the playoffs. Here's what they need in order to make the playoffs, Vinny. You ready?
Oh, gosh.
They need to win out. That's step 1.
Well, that's
the big underdog to begin with.
Sure.
The Commanders need to lose out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Keep going.
The Bucks need to lose tonight and then lose 1 more.
Yeah.
The Rams or the Seahawks have to go 1-2 or worse the remainder of the season. Or worse. The Cardinals need to lose 1, and the 49ers need to lose 1.
Yeah.
That's what you get.
Yeah, and the Jets are going to win their second Super Bowl.
There we go. Yes, there we go. Yes, there it is. All right, Vicenz, thank you as always.
Going back to work.
We're gonna get to work too. We're gonna get to work on finding in-game angles for you, and maybe we'll tweet them out or something throughout the day, because that's all we got for you here on this show here today. Because Alex is back tomorrow morning with Kenny at 9 a.m. previewing Monday Night Football in the freezer with the Packers and the Saints. Also the reaction to Beatdown City in the college football playoff across the board as well. And then Ryan McCormick and I are back at 3 o'clock tomorrow for Football Frenzy, Monday Night Football, and we'll preview both Christmas games as well tomorrow on Football Frenzy at 3 o'clock. Drew Dog, Sean, thank you as always. Alex, good luck.
You too.
Good luck, everyone out there. I know Bob, Flo, we're all having fun in the chat there today. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you next time. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.